we're coming to you live for the Milk 4 Tough Studio. Boomer Esiason, Greg Giannotti. It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan. Simulcast across the country on CBS Sports Network. And wherever you are on the free Odyssey app, good Wednesday morning. I have to say, when Aaron Rodgers came here officially and we kind of knew it was happening, and Joe Douglas at Boomer and Gio Live 1 told us he was showing up here, and then we interviewed him, and I was all in 100%. I loved the idea of it. I thought it was going to be great. I had him in the AFC Championship game. But as I sit here today on November 29th, 2023, I am now mad at Aaron Rodgers, and I currently do not like him anymore. And it's not rational. I understand this. But he has screwed this team up worse than I think anybody could have possibly screwed this team up. And I know the Achilles injury is a freaky thing, whatever. But all his buddies here stink. And now he's making news every single week on the Pat McAfee show. He's got all these conspiracy theories out there about everything. But if someone brought up a conspiracy theory about him and his Achilles, he tells them to go F themselves on the Pat McAfee show. I've had enough of them. I haven't even seen him play a full game, and I've had enough of them as a Jet.
Jesus.
Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
All right. Good morning, G. I'm doing a little bit better than you are. I thought that, listening to Aaron yesterday, that he was more pragmatic and certainly more understanding of his own situation and whether or not he could get back on the field this year. I thought it was the first time that we had a glimpse into the reality of what he's dealing with. But now, listen, you're a Viking fan, so you have an inherent bias against him anyway.
I always disliked him, but then I made a full turn. I was all in on it. I thought it was the greatest thing. I was buying into his craziness. I was loving the idea of the darkness retreat and the psychedelics, and I was like, this guy is perfect, and if someone was going to change the Jets, it would be him. This crazy guy who is going to be the Mark Messier of the New York Jets. And now, I mean, it's now I'm back to disliking him. I don't want to, because I want him to be the savior for the team next year, and maybe I'll do another full turn again. But, I mean, as they sit here just spiraling down and knowing that nothing is going to change next year. Nothing. No one's going to pay the price for this horrible season because Aaron Rodgers doesn't want anything to be different than the team he signed up for.
He's kind of hamstrung the team for sure. Yes, we all know that, but that was the price that they had to pay to go out and get him. And they went out and they swung for the fences, and unfortunately, they hit a dribbler. and
Little
the dribbler, right? Exactly, but in so many different ways. I mean, it's from the buddies that he asked to be here with him, to the coach that he wanted to be here with, and everything has failed. Now, it was amazing when I think back to all of the stuff that we saw in Hard Knocks. It was great. It was unbelievable. It was must-watch TV. It was watching how a professional quarterback goes about doing his business on the field, off the field, in the locker room, in the meeting rooms, and all of that stuff. And it was 100% the right way to go about what he was doing, and you could see it. And unfortunately, when he gets hurt, now all of a sudden, it's the weekly spot on McAfee, and, we've had to deal with that ever since he got hurt. And it's a frustrating aspect of the season. It's a frustrating reminder to Jet fans of what could have been. But it also is a stark reminder of how, the coaching staff can't win a game with a backup quarterback. They won a couple games. Amazing that they beat Philadelphia, took Kansas City right to the end. And the games that they won were due in large part to their defensive prowess and the ability of the defense to get some turnovers. But the last couple of weeks, with the benching of Zach and Tim Boyle coming on and the Hail Mary return for a touchdown, I mean, it's right back where they were. It's like they fight it, and they have fought it. I fought it for 3 years. And then all of a sudden it just, boom, it collapses. Now, I was in the middle of like two of those collapses and two of the coaches that got run out of here. And this is why I know it's hard to understand preaching patience and stability. And if you ask Tom Brady, he'll say the same thing. You can't just always keep changing coaches, especially with the way the Jets are built right now and what they're expecting next year from Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and there is no way that Rob Saleh gets fired or Nathaniel Hackett gets moved on from or any of that, because this is the situation that Aaron Rodgers chose. This is the situation he wants to play in, and that's that. And they're going to give it a run next year. So we have to wait a full entire year well, now less than a year, obviously, to see him play and see this thing play out the way it was supposed to be in 2023. And, I mean, maybe if you want to do a glass half full thing, you can say that you saw the deficiencies in this roster this year that you can fix without Aaron Rodgers on the field as opposed to when he was there, maybe wasting a year or whatever. I don't know. And Joe Douglas is going to have to figure that out. But anybody who thinks that Woody Johnson is going to fire anybody is nuts.
Part of me appreciates that. Part of me appreciates feeling that the owner understands the enormity of the injury and what happened to the entire team, because the owner had bought into it. The owner flew out there to go with the Jet contingency, if you will, to go meet with Aaron, and he was smitten by him. So they all figured out, that this was going to be great. And then I could imagine what that owner's box must have been like that first night against Buffalo when he goes down. Now they go on and win the game because Josh Allen is playing giveaway. But when I think about that moment in time, you got to be thinking, if you're Woody Johnson, you know what? There goes the season, because we had put so much stock into who Aaron is and what he was supposed to be for us that I don't know if we can ever come back from that. So maybe there's a realistic take on this thing from the owner's standpoint that, you know what, we're not going to be good. We didn't expect to be good. And now what I'm looking forward to is next year, and to be totally fair to the guys in this building with the amount of injuries that we have had on the offensive side of the ball, that we're just going to have to fight through this. And like I told you about the Giants a couple weeks ago, how they go through this, I think, will determine who stays and who goes. Because I ultimately don't think that decision is finalized yet. So Brian Daboll has won 2 games in a row with Tommy DeVito as his quarterback. Mm-hmm. How is he doing that?
Well, I mean, it's pretty amazing. The defense has been great, and they figured it out. And this is one of the reasons why I said that, I didn't think that things were going to completely fall apart with Brian Daboll, and it wasn't going to be Joe Judge 2.0, and he's proved that to this point. Now, they got a ways to go.
Yeah, I know, but the thing about it is he's stopped the losing right in the middle of the season, and he's doing it with an undrafted free agent quarterback.
Yep.
So that tells me that I know that he can coach. I know that Wink Martindale can coach. And by the way, he gave Wink the game ball after the game the other day.
Yep, that's
right. I don't
right.
know if you saw that. Mm-hmm. But and they're fighting. There's internal strife. There's always internal strife. Every football team has internal strife. You can't not have internal strife. Somebody somewhere along the line hates each other. Somewhere. It could be a nose tackle and a center. It could be a wide receiver and a DB. It could be a tight end and a linebacker. Somebody hates somebody.
Yep.
And it always happens. But then it gets exacerbated when you lose. But now the fact that they've won 2 games in a row, it proves that Brian Daboll knows what he's doing. Again, and this was the coach of the year last year. He didn't change. He hasn't changed one bit. The team may not have lived up to the expectations, the lofty expectations coming off of the playoffs last year, and getting drilled by the Cowboys in week 1 didn't help. But the fact that, they're winning with a undrafted free agent rookie quarterback is a testament to who they are as coaches. Now, Rob Saleh is not doing that. They're losing, and they're losing with the 2nd overall draft pick who can't seem to get out of his own way. And they're playing now with a kid who's completely in over his head. Maybe he'll play a little bit better against Atlanta this week, who does give up some yards and points. But, and Desmond Ridder does turn the ball over for the Atlanta Falcons, so hopefully the defense can get 3 or 4 turnovers, much like the Giant defense. You heard Brian Daboll say it. Defense, way to go. Get those turnovers. Keep them coming. Because that makes the job a little bit easier for the offense, and you can win games, 10-7.
So I put on yesterday Hard Knocks in season with the Miami Dolphins, and it just hit me in the face with the Jets and the Dolphins and the things that the Dolphins did right and the things that the Jets did wrong. So there were 2 assistant coaches from San Francisco. One was Rob Saleh. The Jets hired him. Another one was Mike McDaniel. The Dolphins hired him. You got genius offensive head coach who was doing things with that offense that other teams are not doing, and you got statue Rob Saleh and his beard dye with his arms crossed watching another season go down in flames. The Miami Dolphins select Tua Tagovailoa with the 5th overall pick. He is in the MVP conversation for this year. The Jets select Zach Wilson with the 2nd overall pick. He was the stone worst quarterback I've ever seen with my own 2 eyes. Tyreek Hill was available. It was down to the Jets and the Dolphins. Maybe not out of their, completely in their control because of Miami and the taxes and all of that. But guess who got him? The Dolphins got him, and the Jets did not.
There's another part of that story, and I told you about it yesterday, and I saw somebody say, take it for what it's worth because it came from Boomer. Well, I'm going to tell you again, Tyreek Hill does not want to play at MetLife Stadium. I'm telling you that is a real thing, and I heard it, from people who know exactly what the hell's going on. And so Tyreek, the taxes, number one. I think the weather, number two.
Yeah.
I think the offensive head coach, number three. And then, of course, the field, the grass field.
Yeah, and also in watching this Hard Knocks in season, who's in the quarterback room backing up one of the MVP candidates at quarterback is Mike White. I mean, everything just hit me yesterday with both these teams were in dire straits and had to make franchise-altering decisions. And one is on the way to running away with the division, and the other is in ashes once again.
Well, the Jets, it's not because they didn't try. I
understand, and we know that. And if Aaron Rodgers doesn't go down, like I said before, maybe they are in the AFC Championship game. But prior to Aaron Rodgers coming here, it was a mess, and the Dolphins made the playoffs last year and almost won a game with Skylar Thompson as the quarterback. So you can go back to last year. And now this year, I mean, it's not even a comparison. The Dolphins blew by the Jets, left them in the dust, just beat the hell out of them in their building on a standalone national TV game, and returned a Hail Mary for a touchdown. I mean, that's how bad it is for the Jets. And if you watch Hard Knocks in season, and I hope you do, when Mike McDaniel, as goofy as he is with these press conferences, he stands up in front of that team, and you could tell he's authentic. You could tell the players love him. Tua talks about how much everybody trusts him. The practices are fun. And then meanwhile, you got, Monument Salah just standing there reading off of TikTok inspirational messages. I mean, you couldn't get farther from what the NFL is and should be today at the head coach and what it shouldn't be when you look at Mike McDaniel and Rob Saleh, and it was on display on Black Friday.
Well, the big thing is winning and losing. That's the difference. And trying to look the same when you're winning and when you're losing is pretty hard in this business. I know from a personal relationship with Frank Reich, they look different when they lose. If they start trying to explain things and people don't want to hear it because all they want is results. And unfortunately, Rob Saleh, it's rinse and repeat for him because he's got to get up in front of the media and he's got to talk about the most important position in all of football, and it's a disaster for the Jets. It's an absolute disaster. And it has been. And it's not easy to stand up there and try to protect your players when the fan base and people like us and all the pundits and everybody's screaming and yelling about, the kid that's playing and the fact that he can't play. So you could have, Bill Walsh could be standing over there, and I don't necessarily know that it would be any better right now.
Well, but you just talked about just a couple minutes ago, how is Brian Daboll winning with an undrafted rookie free agent, Tommy DeVito?
Right.
So,
they're not putting up 30 points.
Okay, but they're winning games, and they look like a football team, and he looks the part, and they're competing, whereas the Jets are not. So,
I would more tie it to the fact that the Giant defense has gotten, I think, 9 turnovers in the last 2 games. I mean, and those games they won by the skin of their teeth, when you think about it. Wink Martindale has dialed up some things. Some young guys are coming along, making plays. And Tommy DeVito's taking sacks, and he's not turning the ball over. It's the NFL. It's crazy. It's a couple of things that these coaches look at, and they say, if we can win the battles in these areas, we're going to win the game. And the Giants are proof positive of that. I just, for whatever reason, even with Nathaniel Hackett there, a guy who won MVPs with Aaron Rodgers, can't figure out how to get a quarterback to complete a series of passes that are going to end up in the end zone.
Yeah, this is another thing that I thought of, too, when I was sitting there looking at Mike White and Skylar Thompson in this quarterback room. So we would agree that Mike McDaniel is one of the brighter offensive minds in football right now, yes?
Yeah, because he worked under Kyle Shanahan. He worked with McVay under Mike Shanahan and understands
now he's doing it himself.
Offense.
Yeah, he's doing it himself. So Tua his career was in question last year.
Yes, it was.
So him coming into this, he even learned how to fall differently to try to stay healthy.
So him coming into the year was looked at as one of the most injury-prone starting quarterbacks in the league. And this bright offensive mind in the NFL chose his primary backup to be Mike White. Think about that. That's how much he thought of Mike White. One of the premier offensive minds in the game said, I've got an injury-prone quarterback. We need a backup who could step in and get the job done if he gets hurt. And they signed Mike White. And, oh, by the way, they kept Skylar Thompson, who almost won a playoff game last year, as their third quarterback. So that's another thing that the Dolphins have done better than the Jets if they had better backup plans, too. I mean, I'm telling you, it's so perfect that Hard Knocks preseason was the Jets and Hard Knocks in season is the Dolphins, because you get a look into what sucks and what doesn't.
Yes.
It's just amazing. It is absolutely amazing looking at an organization that is humming on all cylinders and doing it right.
Yeah, the amazing thing is, too, it's not just the offense, it's the defense. The defense
they got healthy.
They got healthy on defense, and their defense is playing better than Jet defense.
Yeah.
You have a defensive head coach, so you'd like to think your defense would be at least better than their defense with an offensive head coach, but they hired Vic Fangio as their defense coordinator.
Yeah, and by the way, there is a guy who – are you familiar with this guy? He's the linebackers coach for the Dolphins. His name is Anthony Campanile.
Yeah.
Now, he gives this speech to the linebackers, and I was not familiar with him, but hearing his voice, I was like, okay, he's from here. He has to be, you know? He's like, this is pursuit. This is what you do in pursuit. And I'm like, pursuit? I was like, I know this guy. I mean, he might as well have been saying prosciutto and not pursuit. And he's like, you got to act like that running back just took your kids from you. That's what you need to do. The guy just kidnapped your children. And he's screaming and yelling.
Are you telling me that he grew up in Bellport?
No, he didn't grow up in Bellport, but he's a Jersey guy. He went to Rutgers. He coached at Rutgers. So he's perfect. He's just absolutely perfect. And now he's going to be one of these stars, I think, in this Hard Knocks in season. And he also, he coached at Don Bosco, too.
All right.
Coached at Don Bosco. So he's perfect.
Well, there you go. So now what's going to be interesting to see if whether or not this in-season Hard Knocks distracts the Dolphins in any way.
Opening scene.
Yes.
Mike McDaniel lays all of that out and goes, I ain't effing changing, and you aren't either. Hard Knocks cameras are here, and it sucks for the big paychecks in the room, but we can let it distract us if you want, but we're not gonna. Right off the bat, he was like, Hard Knocks is here today, addresses it, and it's amazing when he's talking to the media.
He sounds like a lunatic.
Yeah, that can't formulate a sentence. When he talks to the team, he's in full command and doesn't stutter, nothing, doesn't sound like that weird comedian that we hear. It's remarkable. That guy is fascinating.